Welcome back to codingcat.dev, where we give you cats the freshest dose of dev snacks. Here is Alex Patterson and Brittany Postma. This episode brought to you by Storyblok. Build anything and publish everywhere. Hey, welcome back, perfect peeps. How's everybody doing today?
Fantastic. Excited.
I'm excited too. Just got to talk to Eduardo a little bit before we got running here, and it's got me more excited about state management. So, Eduardo, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I would never try to say your last name or anything. So, if you wouldn't mind just giving us your full name and kind of what got you started into web development.
You want my name with English accent, or you want my name with in Spanish?
Oh, I would love the Spanish version first.
Yes.
Spanish, it's Eduardo San Martin Morote. You have two names. I don't know if it's all the Hispanic countries, but in Spain at least, we have the two last names of our parents, so they get pretty long.
Yeah, it always throws me off when I see it, and I'm like, which ones do I put? And so when we have to deal with database stuff and it says first name, last name, I'd put Eduardo, and then the rest would go.
The rest is last name. Yeah, that's how it is.
Is that how it is? That I was going to say,
Yeah.
that's like a horrible thing for user experience, I imagine, for you typing that in.
It's fun to see the websites break. When the name is too long, right? Or just layouts. And I've seen longer names, right? But it's pretty long.
Yeah, the layout would be intense.
It's like you can't have the last name that long.
Yeah, sometimes they cut it off. So I just get the first one, San Martin. I've seen also only San, which
jeez,
it's fun because it doesn't make any sense. It just looks like it's Japanese at the end. San.
My son's always gone to Spanish immersion, and it's been really fun. He's had different teachers that have been from Chile, and now she's not from Mexico, but that's where she studied, and so he's gone through different accents, and they've had different names, and it's been really incredible. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
Anyways,
can you imagine?
Thank you for giving the Spanish version of your name. I really appreciate it. I'm dying to know, how did you get into web development? Did you come straight out of college? Did you not go to college? What did that look like for you?
I did go to college. I grew up in Spain, and I did a French school. I live in France, in Paris. And so I have French studies in Spain. So I speak both languages natively.
Nice.
And at first I thought, my parents, because I was also a kid, right? And I thought that computer science as such didn't have too much of jobs. It's not a job market for it. It wasn't a good job opportunity, right? That's what we thought in Spain. And that was because a lot of people at that time, so that was 12 years ago, a little bit more, 13, the people who were doing computer science studies were just being computer technician, so helping people to debug the printer, the computer, format the disk, install Windows, all this kind of stuff. So I didn't want to do that. And I already was exposed to programming because I just did it by myself because I wanted to do it on the computer. I thought it was fun, so I was creating some video games, very simple ones. And so the neighbor of where I live. So I live in a small city in the south of Malaga, city called Fuengirola. And it's a very touristic city. So a lot of people from Northern Europe come there, from richer countries, basically. And so our neighbor is French. And so he's a friend of the family, or my parents know them because, well, he speaks French, and my mother speaks French, so it's easy to just discuss. And so we discussed that with him. He told us that actually it's a very good job market. There is a very good job market for computer science in French, and I should absolutely pursue that as a studies because I'm not going to have any trouble with jobs. And so that's what we did. So what I did. So I went to France to study for computer science, even though at first I just was doing computer science as a hobby. I just enjoyed very much doing programming and creating things out of those just lines of code, right? And so I did 5 years of studies, and then I just got a job. in France, and that's when I moved to Paris.
Are you still in Paris now?
And I'm still in Paris.
Wow.
I don't do any more. I do remote work mostly, but
I have to ask, how was the lockdown for you? I heard Paris was rough.
I don't think Paris was that rough.
Okay.
I mean, pretty every country was at least rough at the beginning, right? It was
Yeah.
bad because the places are small, right? So you don't get a lot of things to do. And I was alone at the time in the apartment, so it wasn't very nice. But
I want
yeah,
to say Tim Bennix, wasn't he in Paris, Britt?
I
They
think
did
he
live in
was.
Paris,
I
and
think he was telling us like to walk the dog, you had to have a letter and stuff like that. And I was like,
yeah,
whoa.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
at least he could walk the dog.
Yeah.
He could go outside too.
They moved out to the countryside now, though.
They
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Out in the space.
Nice. So you got through all of that kind of part. What brought you into like the Vue community? How'd you get started there?
So that was quite a long time ago. It wasn't my first job, and it was an agency in Paris, and we do web development. And so we used at the time frameworks like AngularJS, and React was barely getting popular at the time. And it was cool to work with AngularJS, but we get into the limitations of it very quick when we're working with it, and just things of the API that just didn't work out very well. And so I discovered Vue in the evenings while I was working on my own projects, my pet projects for the web. And so I started working with it, going to the GitHub issues and just answering here and there. And at some point, a few months later, I think, Evan, quite actually half a year later, Evan, so the creator of Vue, asked if there were other people who wanted to join a team and create a Vue core team, right? So I answered that, and I find myself in a Slack with 15 other people a few days later. And so since then, I've been helping maintain different parts of the ecosystem. More people got in the core team, and so with more people, we can focus on more specific parts of the ecosystem, which is great. And so today, I'm responsible for the router, and I did write Pinia, but I'm not the only one responsible for it, so to say. Even though I did write it, and I'm still the one maintaining it, the router is more work than Pinia.
It seems like routers are so complex. Like the Angular router team, same way. Like there's just so much involved in it. Does
Vue by itself have a built-in router?
Yeah, so built-in as it's a library that we just added.
Okay.
So you could say official.
Is that like the client-side rendered version of Vue? Because Nuxt would be like what you would use, right, for static side.
Oh, Nuxt uses Vue router.
Yeah. Okay.
Just kind of talking about how you separate the repos out like that. So there's like Vue, and if actually let me pop this open real quick. There we go. Just kind of looking at how the repos are broken down. You have kind of Vue, which has the core, and Brittany and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Britt, but we're terrible at Vue. Like I've
used it one time.
And so what we don't fully understand or know is that when you use Vue in the core, it seems like you also have to like include or install router and Pinia. So how does that kind of fit together within Vue?
It's more that Vue, it's a progressive framework. So you can use Vue without build tool or just for a small section of the page, the similar way you will be using jQuery, right? You would just put the reactivity, sprinkle the reactivity around. And you actually have a smaller version of Vue called Petite Vue that does that. So it has like a subset of the API of Vue.js, but it doesn't require any bundle, any bundler, any compilation step of anything. It's just very, very limited. It's very small, also very tiny lib.
Is that similar to Preact, maybe?
No, I think it will be more similar to Alpine.
Okay.
For Lime. Yeah, Alpine.js.
I just want to mention that Anthony has called us Voobs, which I think is Vue noobs.
Yeah.
Be careful when you spell that one, just FYI. He's also pointing out Petite Vue.
Yeah, that's a repository. Yeah,
That's an interesting one. I like that.
Right. So literally means small view in French.
Nice. So I think similar to Angular, Vue's kind of taken like the best parts of React and the best parts of Angular and started to like kind of glob all that together. One of the things I love the most about Angular and Vue, they have the CLI that is part of it as well. When you're going to like create a repository in Vue, can you say immediately, I would like state management in there? And does that probably leads to another question of, is Pinia like the default?
Yeah, Pinia is a default, and yes, you can have. So we have multiple tools actually, because there is also Vite in the equation, right? So you can create your project with Vite or Webpack, but before that there was only Webpack, and so in the CLI, so currently maintained by Soda T, which is a core team member. There is also the UI, which was created by Guillaume Chaud Acrium, which is another core team member. And that was pretty cool because it was, you could basically run the commands from the web application without actually going through the terminal. So it turned out to be very comfortable for newcomers to create their project. And even for more advanced people, they just get an interface for other tasks that are pretty nice. You have the source map explorer, the bundle analyzer, so you can see how the dependencies just are grouped into chunks and split into chunks. So I think that today we also have Create Vue, which is I don't remember anymore. I think it still offers you, do you want to add the routing? Do you want to add Pinia? And then it just generates a template. Based on a template, generates a base repository or folder where you can start off your application. And then you also have all the templates like Vitesse, and other people just generated their own templates with more libraries like the internationalization and stuff like that.
That's really cool. It's amazing that you were like able to get into this Slack group with like whatever 15 people, kind of some amazing people, and then you got started down this journey, and you've basically made a career out of like maintaining Vue this whole time, right?
Not exactly, I would say. It doesn't. It started to pay off this year, I would say. I mean, pay off, it's a big term, but let's say I wasn't able to make a life out of it for a very long time. So I would still have to do all the freelancing gigs I would be able to get, trying to balance the life with the open source, which was the most interesting part of my work, I would say. And so I think this year I started to see some light, say, of that tunnel where I can see, okay, I can see if things keep going this way, I should be able to leave only working on open source, or mostly working on open source.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's really cool.
But it's been 5 years since then.
It's really. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just shocked, like when you were talking about the CLI and that they still support a Webpack version too with Vue, and so many things have come out of the ecosystem from Vue, right? Like so many good things for the web in general that I'm surprised that there's still a Webpack version sitting out there.
I mean, it's true that I don't use Webpack anymore too much.
Does
only
who does React projects?
No, they still also can use Vite. I don't know. It still has its users. I know that for sure. I mean, we can just check the downloads in the NPM.
Yeah,
see that
for sure.
Has a lot. But yeah, Ivan did a great job when he created Vite, and also bringing in together so many people that also were very motivated. And it feels like all those people really make a good project, and I created a very good community. And then people from other frameworks started collaborating, so that was really
That's
cool.
what I was.
I never worked in it though, but
yeah, it's really like bringing all of the frameworks kind of together. That's what it feels like. Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
I think we're going to take a pause just for a minute for a sponsor break. And then when we come back, Eduardo is going to show us more about state management and how we can like use it within the browser. So we'll be right back.
See some pineapples.
Pineapple.
We know that creating content can be a tedious balancing act. Developers want flexibility to make seamless digital experiences, while content teams need the tools to work independently. We make changes and are left to watch everything fall apart. We met our limits using plugin after plugin and waiting weeks for edits. All for this. We knew it was time to rebuild the blocks. Storyblok gives marketers creative control and use a visual editor to actually see what they're doing. And developers are no longer restrained to a set of technology. Storyblok has made it simple for each market with localization and personalization tools, and allows you to publish content on all channels and all devices. Truthfully, we all wanted the same thing: to deliver the right information to the right destination at the right time.
We didn't dance as much that time.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
so happy to have that one back. It's so good.
That's right. Content block. Great music. I need to. Yeah. Why did I say content block?
At least you didn't say storybook this.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be one of those
Thank
days.
you, Storyblok, for sponsoring.
Thank you, Storyblok. I'm not sharing. I guess Eduardo, you were going to share, not me. Kind of some more state management pieces and like how we can check those out. So I'm not even going to pretend. Every time I go down this state management road, I'm like, why do I need state management? So if you can answer that for me, it'd be fantastic, because I'm stuck in like Firebase land and I feel like it just takes care of itself. I don't need it.
Yeah, that's true. And it's true. I mean, in a way, you can still use both. But when you use some kind of data library or data layer for your application, like GraphQL or Apollo, they usually come with some kind of cache in a way that allows you to just use the data anywhere, and it takes care of the mutualization of the data. So you don't have to, so you only have one source of data, right? And so for Vue, that's very important as well. I mean, probably any front-end framework today, having one source of truth, and then you have the data-driven approach. It's very important. So the state management at the end is gonna come down to being able to put that somewhere, and also adding some business logic attached to that. And that's pretty much it in reality.
Cool. Do you want to show it to us?
Okay, so let's show.
Try it this way, see.
So this is a playground that has everything coded in, though. Is that fine?
I think that's totally fine.
Okay.
You might have
Should I
to zoom in
explain?
on some things, though. Just FYI.
All right. So these, all the code here is in the Pinia repository, and so it's a mono repo, so you can just clone it, do pnpm install, and then you can just do pnpm run play, and it's going to turn up the playground here. So if I
would you mind? Could you do like a command plus?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a command plus.
Okay.
Just have to change the.
You probably have one of the 4K monitors like me, and I always have to zoom in like 12 times.
Let me just Pinia, and then just turn it up. So inside of the package of the playground, I have these play script, I think. Yeah. And so that's going to open up these. I hope I didn't run the server twice. I'm just gonna close these. Right. And then the editor is here, which I'm also gonna make a little bit bigger.
Maybe answer me a question that I've been asking people. Why is it 5173? And I think I know the
I don't
answer.
know. I want to know the answer. No.
Okay. So I've heard someone say, and I don't remember who it was or where I saw this, but that it was Vite in like Roman numerals or in Leet code.
Right. That's true.
Roman numerals. Wow.
Yeah, if you do Roman numerals, I mean, except for 7.
VI is 5, right?
Yeah, 5 in Roman is a V. So I mean, the 7 doesn't. The 7 will be a V and 2
I
I's.
guess the 7 is almost like when you replace a number for a letter. That's the T.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's clever. That was really good.
To be honest, I think it's clunky, but because it's
I
not
was going
easy
to
to
say
type.
it's kind of throwing me off because SvelteKit used to be on 3000 and now all of my cache is at 3000. And so now I have to physically go and erase it and type in 5173.
Yeah, honestly, it's not. In my opinion, it's not as comfortable as it used to be. Wait, I need to also zoom this one
Perfect.
a little bit. All
That
right.
is perfect.
Because usually you want to have like some kind of repetition somewhere, not 4 different digits, because all the time it's like, wait, what was it? Was it a 2? Was it a 5? Well, at least now if you know the rule that it looks like Vit, then at least you can, the memo technique help. It's easy to remember.
Yeah, I like that.
But I wish they put that somewhere. 3000 was easy. All right, so what do we have here? In the playground, mainly, there is a lot going on, I think. The interesting part are the stores, right? Yes. So there are different ways of declaring stores in Pinia. This one is using an outdated syntax, but it's fine. Now it's updated. So we have 2 different kinds of syntax. We have the options and the setup. And so we use this function define store to define and not create the store. And the reason behind that is because we want to use the stores in specific places. We don't want to instantiate the store right away. We want to instantiate them as we go. And so this is a design decision that makes store registration always dynamic by design. So you don't even have to think about it. And I think it's great. So for example, if you go to the playground, I load the DevTools and I check the stores here, I can see that I don't have any store registered. Pinia root is just the state of the root. There are no getters. It's just because all the other ones that appear here are going to have some. If I go to, let's say, the easiest one, the counter, I can see that the counter appear here because now it has been registered dynamically. And then also the Pinia store has now new things, and it has all the getters. Anyways, never mind. So it has all the getters from all the stores. It can get very long, very, very big. And so here you can see the state, and if you want, you can even modify it. So you can see that it changes on the page as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we can do it in both ways.
This is giving me flashbacks of Redux.
Yeah, in a way. But Pinia doesn't try to do much. It really tries to keep something familiar to Vue developers. So we have 3 concepts. Basically, you have the actions, the getters, and the state. State is pretty much the equivalent of data for a component. So this is where you put your state. Getters are computer properties. So these are this is something in Vue that is very useful is when you want to compute a value out of the state. So for example, filtering a list or combining 2 different variables together, like an array and a filter or a series of filters. And they are optimized in the way that they are not recomputed multiple times. They are only recomputed when something changes. So that's pretty cool. And that's something from Vue. And then we have the actions, which are just functions. And the idea is they can hold the business logic right to the store. Now, this is a very dummy store. It's not something you will really see in a real application, right? Because, well, unless you have to count something in the, I don't know what, I'm pretty sure there is an application where they have a real counter store, right? But
I think the basic question though, with this basic store, when you see in Svelte, you see kind of just a variable or an object that's kind of keeping your state. Why do we need like a entire state like management application or library, I guess is probably the right word, in Vue? Like, what does that do for us?
So it would do, the answer is, of course, you don't need these kind of things all the time, right? And it's one of the main pain points I would say for for us as the core team, or just people who want to teach other like good practices, is that people tend to use the store too much, and this is true for all the frameworks. like sometimes people put too many other things on the store, like they don't really. It's just more convenient, and they start putting everything on the store, and then it's not really good. And in some frameworks, in some cases, you have bad performance, even like in Redux and React. I know that was one of the problems for many applications. So you could create an object as well globally here. And I know that Svelte also has that. So ref in Vue, you create a reactive value, basically, and then you put that into a variable somewhere. So you could do something like this, clone state, and you put everything you want inside. And then you could create all the other, you could export it and also export functions on the side. And that would work, but it wouldn't work in all scenarios. You wouldn't handle the SSR. It wouldn't have the DevTools integration that helps you to update things on the fly and stuff like that from anywhere. You would have to be in the component. You cannot see the changes or where they come from. So the point of Pinia is really to give you some kind of structure and to give you the development experience that you wouldn't have, and the server-side rendering, which is something that you don't have, and you have to implement yourself if you want to. Then you also have the plugins, but yeah, it comes at a very low cost. The size of Pinia is less than 2 kilobytes, which is it. So it's really small.
I've heard that argument before, that people will just use stores too much. And I think one of the main reasons that Svelte can provide that out of the box is that it's a compiler. If you don't use it, it goes away. But Vue doesn't compile the code away. So it provides these libraries, which is really nice, that you can just add in a small library to do that if you need it.
Yeah, it does. I think that applies to Vue as well. I mean, we do compile the templates, so we do have the completion step. We actually compile the code as well now.
Okay,
and it does tree shape things as well.
Yeah.
I haven't tested the Svelte stores to be able to to compare them correctly, but I feel like it's more like state management, just state, isn't it? It doesn't contain any.
It's a way to do global state, yeah.
All right, yeah. So Vue, that's a ref or reactive. You have that as well as one function, right? That you could just change. But I don't count that as a store. I count that more as just state management, like by hand. The idea here is we also get we can just put things in one place and we get some structure. And then you can divide your state management into multiple stores, and you can use one store inside of another. So you can have some store so you start in an application, in a page where you might have the card store, right? That handles something very basic about this card. But then you have another page that relies on the card, but also needs to add some extra information, like, I don't know, coupons, to make it simple, but probably something more complex, right? And so instead of keeping growing your very first store, you can create new stores that just use the previous store. And so your initial pages that were using only the store and that never change are kept as simple and light. And then the new ones are heavier.
Are all of the stores writable stores? Are there like methods or functions that you use for each type? Or they're just all writable?
Yeah, everything is writable. This is one of the things that could be improved in terms of linting, I would say. So the state here is just everything is writable, right? You can just change this counter from anywhere. So for example, if I open up the counter, I think this page, yeah, the counter store, I import the function that is just here, and I just invoke it to get the store, and I name it counter. And then that counter has n, and I can just do anything I want with n, right? I can change it here in the template. I don't need anything specific. So if you want to do spaghetti code, you can do the spaghetti code, right? We're not blocking you from doing the spaghetti code.
Yeah.
But it also gives you the flexibility to organize and to do things that are more convenient. So for example, you can just use these things in forms with vModel. You don't have to do anything fancy to get it work.
I asked about that because we were kind of comparing the Svelte stores to this, and Svelte has the readable, writable, and derived stores. So we can actually like specify which store we're bringing in. So I think it would be similar to a derived store, actually. Like these can be derived off of each other. You said that you can pull in other stores to like use them together.
So you can call. So you see how these gives you a function. I'm gonna remove these. I can import another store, and then I can call the use of the store inside of any action.
Yeah.
So I think the card store is one of them. Card store. Yeah, I have the user here, and I just call that function inside of another action, and I can use the. I mean, I can just.
So you can use that store's.
Yeah. So here I'm just reading from the store, but nothing prevents you from writing to the store, right? That's intentional. In Vue, you have something called read-only that allows you to transform something into a read-only. Oops. What do you do? Now, not exactly sure these would work. It should though. User dot, can we say name equals something? It should give you a TypeScript error.
Oh, it's
like
IntelliSense, yeah. Nice.
It should also error in the console, I think, at runtime in development.
That's nice.
So I don't think people do these that much, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I never seen these in client code, clients code.
Inside of your actions, is this typically where you do database updates or API calls?
Exactly, yeah. The actions, they are just functions at the end, right? So they can be asynchronous or anything you want. And this is where you can group that kind of logic and any other business logic.
And if a, for some reason like that one right there, purchase item fails during that API call, do you just roll back the state itself and throw an error?
No, you could always implement something like that as a plugin.
Okay.
But it's up to you to handle the, imagine here we had some fetch. So we would do an await and then a try catch, and then we could apply the optimistic or pessimistic update to our data, right? And so the idea is, and this is an option store, so it's a little less flexible than the setup store that we can show afterwards.
Sure.
But the idea is you could also use composables that, so composables are kind of the extension of the composition API. So anybody can define their own composables. And so you could use composables that are written by libraries or just your own composables for your application. And so, for example, you can have use fetch or other things. You really have a lot. And this is just one library, right? But you can write your own.
I use Firestore come up. That was exciting.
Yeah, you have a use Firestore. I mean, Viewfire also offers some composables as well. Yeah. And so here you can see you get the different state of the request, like is it finish, is it fetching? And so you could use that to do the optimistic or pessimistic. And then we have a plugin API that allows you to really shape that the way you want. But by default, it's really bare bones.
That's really incredible. I mean, and like it's bringing up all my community and like open source emotions, because like when I'm working on an app, right, and I see like all these use things, there's someone in the community that decided like we need this and like created that whole thing and spent time on it. That blows my mind. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so what I wanted to say with the use going back, the composables, we can have some very easy ones. Like for example, here in state, this is just 2, right? So if it starts as 2 and then I increment it, but then if I reload the page, it just goes back to 2 because that's the value in memory. We don't have any kind of persistence of that data. But if we want to persist it, we could use one of the composables like use local storage. Now that's Copilot for me, but I thought we have it. Yeah, I don't know why I don't have the completion. Maybe because it's a monorepo. Local storage. And so here I can say use local storage, counter, and I can say we start at 2. And so now if I increment it, I didn't reload the page, but maybe I will need to. No, I didn't.
No, it just worked.
It's persist, and that's pretty cool. Now, this doesn't work for all the composables. This is one of the easiest one. And the reason is because it just returns a state. So it works within the state. But we can use any of them actually with the setup stores, which we can show.
That is actually really nice that there's like a built-in thing for use local storage, because that I'm sure somebody's
Technically,
written
it's
an
not
action in
built-in.
Svelte, but we need that.
I mean, technically, it's not built-in. I imagine that Svelte, they also have like people who contribute a lot of things in the community.
Yeah, we would use that as like an action. I think it would be like a use action, and
maybe you have also a library that exposes a lot of these actions.
yeah.
And just have a group of smart people like making sure they all work and they handle all the edge cases. That's pretty much what you use these.
I think we would have to double the maintainers.
No, I mean, at the beginning it was only one person. This thing.
Have you heard about the SvelteKit story of how long we have not been
boy.
at one point?
We're down a road
No.
we shouldn't go down.
Actually haven't.
So we something like after you get through kind of what you wanted to demo here, let me just ask that. Do you think we should cover some more in this demo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the DevTools, just the timeline. This is fine.
Cool.
To see. So there is this is something that Guillaume Acrium is the one who developed the DevTools, this version. And so he put a lot of thought in a lot of the things we have. And there are so many things we can do. So for example, I'm clicking right now, so I know it's not an interaction I can really show on the screen. But so if I do here, at least people can see. And you see how all these dots align here. And well, it also picks screenshots. So you can see how the counter changes. It's just a screenshot being displayed by the extension.
That's really cool.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. And then here you can click on the event and you can see what's happening. And so this timeline has all these layers that you can see. And you can see that some of them has a little jigsaw piece attached to them. And so this is because they come from plugins. So he opened up an API for the DevTool extension to pick up things from the libraries. So libraries can add their own things into the views here. So where a timeline, the extra things here, everything that has a small jigsaw piece is a plugin. And so Pinia has its own version of these. So for example, if we increment the state, you see all these little, this is because of the zoom. Let me just,
I'm getting flashbacks of observables. Remember those charts?
The marbles?
The dots, the marbles, yeah.
Oh yeah,
let me see if I can
talk about them in RxJS all the time. Don't lose your marbles, folks.
Wait, because I'm zoomed in, I'm having a lot of struggle to show the things. Come on. Can I maybe show less things?
You can zoom out too.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Easier.
Oh, now there they are. So here you can see how we have also the dots. I mean, usually you can also see the small thing with the time and everything, but whatever. You have the small dots, and then around that you have some kind of grouping. So let me just zoom the timeline. Maybe we can get something. Yeah, there we go. So here we can see that I have 3 dots actually, and then we have something that groups them together. And so what this represents is one action. So here we can see all the actions that appear in the timeline, and here I can see that one group of 3 little dots. And so what these represent is one action and all the mutations that happen within that action grouped together. And so the reason we have a group that spans over, I don't know, just multiple milliseconds is because actions are asynchronous, so they can take more time. And so we have the start here happening, and then the end happening in the same centisecond. I don't know how to say the thing before the millisecond. But in any case, here we can see what's being called, the amount of event in the actions that happen, the old value, the new value, every time we increment. And so these one,
can you roll back during that timeline too?
We don't have a rollback because like I don't think it would be possible to like synchronize everything together if you wanted to have a rollback. So for Pinia, I would like to add some actions where you could roll back the state. So then if your application doesn't handle it, that's another story, right? Yeah. But usually if it's well connected, everything should just flow. But what is cooler is when you have more like longer things. So for example, I have these decrement to 0 action which is just going to decrement the store to 0. And you can see that, well, it's just every, I think 500 milliseconds, it decreases the number. And so
it's really cool how it
creating
keeps the
that
grouping on that.
But then you can do it multiple times. And so you can have a different action just running
Oh, wow.
parallel, and you have the different mutations connected to each action. And you can have also errors in between. Oops, I was too slow. Just do it again. So this is an action to just display errors, and they appear as red. Nothing too fancy. But it's cool to be able to see the error. And when the action throws, right, or it rejects the promise, you will see this as red.
That's really cool. You've got me onto stores now. I'm excited. On the state management.
All right, and I think that's one of the coolest things you could find about Pinia. It's the DevTools integration, which probably, I don't know if it's bigger than the actual code base. I don't think it is. But I think not half, but like at least a third of the code base, not the code base, the source code, that we don't include tests and stuff, is the DevTools.
Nice. The question I wanted to ask you, now that I think we're kind of through the full demo, there used to be a state management system called Vuex.
Yeah.
Why the change, and like was there major improvements? What occurred there?
So there was Vuex, and we had some issues with the existing solution. So with Vuex at its time, and mainly it was TypeScript. So the support for TypeScript was clunky as well as the other things I mentioned before. It wasn't easy to get your store to a type-safe state. It's fine to say for the state management, but you had to use external libraries, and the way the API was designed didn't work with TypeScript very well, so to say. And so you had to manually type a lot of things because you had a lot of implicit injections of things, and it wasn't always possible to type everything. Now, there was a lot of effort to make the type system work, but it involved a lot of work from the developer to make it just have basic things.
So one of experience.
Yeah, it suffered from a lot from that. And we also, I personally thought that some of the features were not really interesting. And I think that when I was doing workshops or just working with clients, I would see people use things differently. And then I would see people complain about things like mutations and how verbose they are, and being forced into having to declare getters to access the state, and like seeing a lot of things that were just too verbose and defeating a little bit of the purpose of having a convenient store, right? So I wanted to have this version that match my way of seeing things. So I started working on Pinia and trying to get the typing correct. I mean, as automatic as possible, and having something simpler that wasn't so much commit, dispatch, and all this vocabulary with extra functions and extra arguments that were not so intuitive. And so I worked on this Pinia thing for Vue 2 and Vue 3. I think it was for Vue 2 or Vue 3 first. I don't remember. I think it was Vue 3. And then it came back to Vue 2, but I may be wrong. And then at some point, so Kia, which is the maintainer of Vuex, have been working on the RFC for Vuex for a long time at some point. And so I tried to help as well. I think we inspired each other from a bit from the RFC and from Pinia. And so I would keep up Pinia up to date with the RFC of Vuex, with the things that make sense. And so at the end, after the discussion of the RFC for Vuex 5, we basically already had the implementation in Pinia for Vuex 5. And so it didn't make sense to just rewrite another library that would just be the same. So we kept the name, the library with the logo, and in my opinion, it was a good idea to change the name because the APIs are so different that if we had kept the name, we would have messed up all the existing tutorials and all the SEO. That'd be so difficult for people to deal with. Like searching Vuex file and you get a tutorial and it just says Vuex, and then the API is like commit dispatching. Like these methods do not exist on Pinia. I mean, on the store.
Is Pinia French?
No, it's supposed to be Spanish. So
okay, Spanish.
It's N character, so it's the N with the small wave on top, which is just N as a sound. It's just that you cannot publish a package.
I was wondering if to be a Vue library, if you had to have a French name, like because
no.
all French.
I think at this point, it's more of following Vue itself, because Vue is just short. I mean, everyone chose Vue because they like the work, right? And it's just fancier than just Vue in English, VIEW. It's 3 letters, so it's short, it looks nice. So you pick the French word. And then a lot of the things came in just following that, because then it's easier, right? To pick a name for things when you just have some reason around it.
Anthony is killing me today with all of the Evan Vue. Do you like pina coladas?
Yeah.
I can't with all the.
I haven't got him right.
I did have a legitimate question though. Do you think there's like an inflection point to where you would need to add in Pinia or a state management library? What point in your application do you get to that you need that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually don't know. I think there is, but
it depends. The developer answer.
Yeah, that's always the answer. It depends. But as you said, with the Vue store, like you have in Svelte, you have similar things in Vue. So you could, in some scenarios, never need Pinia. But I think as applications grow, you would benefit from, even in small applications, you could benefit from Pinia, or you will need Pinia. So there is a lot of difference between, do I need to use the library because I actually have the use cases? But I can also use it just because it makes my life easier. Is that a bad reason to use the library?
Would it hurt performance to do that?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does, I would rather consider it a bug. I mean, depends of the impact, right? You're telling me it goes 2 milliseconds slower when you do an operation.
It's the function call versus, whatever update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for showing us the demo and kind of letting me ask random questions about state, because it's still like this big mystery in my head.
Let me into the Vue world a little bit too.
Agreed. I still think, and don't kill me over this, but I feel like the Vue community is still one of the strongest communities there is. Whether or not you get the NPM downloads of React or anything, I just think it's unbelievable. We do have a question coming out from Anthony. Does it make sense to use with Nuxt?
Yeah, a little bit less than with Raw Vue, maybe, because they have their own like small composables that work with SSR, and that was one of the things I mentioned, right? But at the end, is the same story. Do you want to also bring the other goodies, so to say, of Pinia? And it has an official plugin for Nuxt, actually. So
there's some like good DX benefits that you could get from maybe using it.
Yeah, definitely.
And doesn't necessarily hurt too much. Maybe just for CSR.
So client-side rendering, I would say the same arguments as server-side rendering and client-side rendering. You get the same benefits. Client-side rendering is easier to handle.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Pinia, you have this composable use store, right? So the idea is you call the composable inside of setup functions and instead of script setup, and otherwise it could mess up. I mean, it's not that it could mess up, it's that it's not able to inject some of the variables that are provided by the upper components. So Pinia works around these by having some Pinia instance that is some kind of global variable. And this doesn't work for SSR. So that's why it's important to keep that I have to call use my store inside of setup. if you go use store somewhere else, like it's outside of a component, it could mess up the state in SSR. Like you could end up using this state of another running application. Yeah, you could have like security issues. But with client-side rendering, you don't have those issues. You can just go use store anywhere.
Nice. Well, cool. I think that probably wraps it up from state management in Vue and Pinia. We're going to jump into our perfect picks now. As a perfect pick, just because I have it open right now, I want to pick the wrong screen. There we go. I want to pick the pineapple because that's amazing. I swear, so if you leave it up long enough, like I have, it blinks at you. But I don't know.
I have a demo with that. Yeah.
So that's what we need to do with AJ on our side.
I need a sticker of the pineapple because that is really
cool. I haven't got them yet, but I should.
You need a store.
Yep.
A store built with the store.
Oh my gosh. Cool. So Brittany, you have the first pick.
Yeah. So Prismac puts out these once a month tutorials, and the very first one they did was on Pinia. So I thought, why not post that here in our Pinia episode? Go check it out, give it a try. And when you get to my second pick, I will explain why I did this, because I actually wrote the second one. But this one, you get to throw confetti, and it's fun.
That is fun. Might have to try that out just to dive into Vue a little more.
Yeah.
What is your second one then?
So the second, I know those cookie things are just the worst. So the second one is actually my tutorial that I wrote for Prismac on Svelte. And we also go into Svelte stores in this. So it's like another thing with stores and bubble popping game. So also very fun.
This is on your Svelte Sirens site, right?
It is the bubbles that we use on the Svelte Sirens site. The game is not on the site yet. I should add that as like a route. Yeah.
Bubbles on. Pop.
There you go.
Very cool. I know this is getting a little old, obviously, since June, but I've been checking it out more because we are doing some bun stuff at work. And so this is
Dino.
Sorry. You got totally mixed up. I was looking at a bun thing on my screen. See, this is why I can't do advertisements very well either. I'm always looking at something else. So this is the Dino framework, which we are doing a ton of Dino at work too. So this fits. And it's a full stack web framework. And if you haven't checked it out, this is crazy fast. And it's really cool too. With the like different rendering that you can get to. What is very cool, where does it say it? This, you ship 0 KB of JS to clients by default. So that's the part that kind of blew me away.
What does it use on the front end? JSX. The framework uses Preact and JSX. So it's like React, sort of.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot like Preact, but yeah.
Well, it uses like Preact.
Which we could go in all the way down, right? Yeah, but I mean, it's cool because it starts that way, and then you can like add on what you need as you go. But it's crazy fast.
That is really cool.
And obviously,
I saw islands. I see a lot of islands architecture stuff in there. It's like Astro.
Yeah. Nice. So this is on the Dino blog.
But it uses
not the bun blog. Sorry.
I like it.
This has been a perfect pick of mine since I noticed it, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Have you played with this, Brett?
No, I'm just irritated because it's Prisma, Prism.
Oh, yeah.
I can't keep track.
I had like a pod with all those people one day. It was like, oh,
what?
I can't keep track of all the pieces either. But anyways, so this you can create just like stellar palettes from. I think it's really cool to like dive into these and like where the failure points are. So like you can mess with the colors because like you're always correcting me like this is not going to be AA, this is not going to be acceptable.
Does it have the accessibility thing like right in there?
Ooh,
Where is
It
that?
goes, so it's got,
But you would need a foreground and a background color to know.
here it is. So see how it goes A plus?
Oh, yeah, I see.
So these all fail. These are good. So that's the, as you click through kind of thing.
What is the
Interesting.
bottom there? Like all the colors you have on the bottom?
Sorry, which button?
Like the bottom, not the button. Sorry. Yeah.
This
What
one?
is that line? I just
I think that's another way to switch between
I see.
those, I
You're right.
That's just
believe.
like the palette on the left that you can create for your
right.
entire like system. And I think if you change that pink 3 color, is that the color it's using for the text? It
Good
won't let you
question.
change it, will it?
I think you can
I'm like
change it
trying to see
here. I
with
think
H.
that,
So you have to know the
see how it,
HSL.
see how it moves?
Yeah,
Not that one. This one moves. Ah,
interesting.
it won't let me grab it. So it goes like that and changes the hue.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I found I'm always like intrigued by these like color palettes and like when they can just, there's one on MSN that I can never find. It's got like the entire like palette with like the opposite color that will work for like AA. And
Do you
it's
mean
really cool.
MDN?
MDN. Sorry. Whew. It's gonna be MDN has a color palette that has like everything that's okay and not okay, and it's in this giant like I can't find it. I'll find it one of these days. Eduardo, I know like we threw you on the spot at the beginning. Did you have any perfect?
How old has it to be?
It could be like
It
a
could be
year ago.
literally anything.
A year ago.
We're up for
Yeah,
anything.
I think one of the things I liked recently was shortly was the Cult of the Lamb, small game, roguelike on the Switch. It's like a small parody, I would say, of it has a
It's called
management
Shorty?
card. No, it's sorry, the Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, the Cult of
Of
Lamb.
the Lamb.
Yeah, it's also on PC. So it's you have a cult and you basically have to build up the cult, and you're a small little lamb and you have very cute
That's
creatures.
amazing.
I feel like they should have made this out of cats, not lambs. It would have been better.
It's short, but it's fun, and it's just funny how it mixes the cute little creatures with very dark content of a
I
cult.
think my son might really enjoy this. I might have to show him this.
It's a bit violent. I'm not sure.
Don't get your son into a cult.
He's keen. I think it's okay. Awesome. Well, Eduardo, thanks so much for coming on. This was super fun. I love learning like stuff that I'm just terrible at, which is state management for sure. The only thing I've really done with it is RxJS, NGXS, all those Angular type thing, but I don't use it on a regular basis because I always feel like the database handles it for me. So.
You've only ever used the really complicated stuff that was like mind-boggling.
No, it's all easy. Anyways, so thank you, and thank you for all your hard work on Vue too. Just
Thanks.
building up
Yeah.
that community and that framework is just amazing. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you for
Any
coming on.
shameless plugs? We should have probably said in the beginning. I totally forgot. You can find Eduardo at, I have it here,
It's Posva, just
Postva,
POSVA.
POSVA on Twitter.
Yeah, GitHub the same.
Anything else you need to pitch before we jump off?
No, I don't have anything to plug.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you around.